Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special presentation. I'm so excited that you have joined WorkflowCon. Thank you to Financial Sense for putting this together, and I'm so excited that you're joining me today. Today, I will be sharing with you some workflow management tips for new firm owners, and we'll talk about conquering the overwhelm because I know what that was like when I first started. So overwhelming to start a new firm, and I will talk a little bit more about my story and tell you about myself. And I see so many of you have joined. Hello, Sarah, Alan, Josh, Kamisha, Kyle. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, in case you don't know who I am, my name is Veronica Wasek, and I am the founder of the 5MB Academy for Bookkeepers, where I empower virtual bookkeepers to become confident professionals and business owners. I also have a YouTube channel called 5 Minute Bookkeeping, where I share a lot of all sorts of QBO knowledge, cleanup, running your business, and so much more. I'm also the founder of the 5 Minute Bookkeeping community on Facebook. So hopefully you have joined that group. We have over 20,000 members, and it's a very positive community where you can come and ask questions and feel safe that we're not going to make you feel bad about asking a question there. I am also the founder of Mavency, where we provide bookkeeping and consulting services for Shopify sellers. And I started my own business about 13 years ago with no employees and no money and really no clue what I was doing. So I can definitely understand if you're a new farm owner, what that feels like, because I have totally been there. And as I said, started all by myself, no clue what I was doing. I was using all sorts of stickies and things to try to manage things because I again no idea what I was doing, and over time was able to grow a team. We now have a team of 7 employees, and we work with clients all throughout the United States. We focus primarily on QuickBooks Online, and that really has been the catalyst for us to be able to work with clients throughout the US. So, what are the challenges for new farm owners? And again, as I said, I have been there, I know what it feels like. Well, first of all, how do you work virtually with clients? Some of you may have been working in the corporate world. Maybe you come from a background of dealing with a lot of paper, going to client offices, dealing with them face to face. And while there are some benefits to that, in order to work virtually, there are certain things that you need to do and to do it effectively. And as I said, we work with clients throughout the United States, and we're able to do that because we develop systems and processes to be able to do that. How do you work efficiently so you can be profitable? That's the other key. We can be doing all of this work, but maybe we're not going to do it efficiently, and therefore we're not going to be profitable. How do you know which apps to work with? Let me know in the chat if you have app overload. Are you confused by all of the apps? I know I was, and there are so many apps now. There weren't as many when I started, and so I can totally understand that you're probably just so overwhelmed with apps. And how do you set boundaries with clients from the start? That's another issue that we have, is that we're working with these clients who are trying to control everything that we do, who are treating us as employees. They're not valuing us. And so, how do we set clear boundaries with clients? And you'd be surprised to know that a lot of that comes from setting up systems, processes, and workflows. And I see Katie is talking about boundaries, and she didn't do that in the beginning, and it was an uphill battle. And Krista says, yes, and just seeing the apps that look good, but then they don't know what to do. So, yeah, that's the thing. All the apps look great. And I went through a stage of just like I was trying out every app. It was a big waste of time in some cases, just because of there's just too much. So we'll talk about apps as well. So to really get started in your firm or really run it efficiently, There are 5 steps to success. Number 1 is tech tools, the apps. Number 2, document management. Number 3, client onboarding. Number 4, service delivery. And number 5, team and client collaboration. Let's start with tech tools. As we said, there's just such app overwhelm, and everybody has an app, and all of these apps do different things. And we all wish there was just the one app that did everything, but there is not. It can be very overwhelming. And also from the standpoint of now we have to make a financial investment in these apps, and we have to know which ones are going to work for us, because otherwise we might be wasting money. There's a lot of risk, and especially when you're just getting started, you have to spend your money very wisely. So when it comes to tech tools, you need to really focus on clarity into your business. What will you do and what will you not do? I'm talking about services. What services are you going to provide? Perhaps specialized industries. Will you have a niche? Will you not? What kinds of clients will you work with? So to really think about what you will do and not do, and especially when it comes to the types of services that you provide. So focus up first on gaining clarity and talk to other bookkeepers, other accountants who are more advanced than you to find out whether they have clarity or how have they gained clarity into their business and what they need to be doing and not doing. Unfortunately, our go-to when we're starting a business is we're willing to take any client for any service at any price. And while we can do that for a short period of time because we need to get going, we need to bring money in the long run, that is not going to work, because then you're being very reactive and you're using all sorts of apps, or maybe you don't even know what app to use, and you don't have the chance to really systematize what you're doing. And Katrina says she's hesitant to jump to a sparkly app and for fear of making clients crazy. And that's another thing. We can't really test out all these apps because then we're going to take clients from one app to another to another. So that can be an issue. So first, clarity. Second, focus. Focus on the essential apps. Which apps do you need to be using? You don't need to go to and look at every single app. There are too many. So focus on what's essential. Keep in mind that the more services that you provide, the more apps you're going to need. And that's why, again, we need that clarity to know what are we going to do and what are we not going to do. In order to get that clarity, start narrowing down what we're doing to then be able to systematize and know the apps that we need to use. So what are the essential apps that you need to be focusing on? Number 1, service delivery. That's a given. For bookkeeping or taxes, if you do taxes. So for bookkeeping, that's QuickBooks Online, Xero, whatever accounting software you're going to use. And if you're using, let's say, QuickBooks Online, then you're going to use QuickBooks Online Accountant also. I don't specialize in Xero, but I'm sure Xero has some sort of client dashboard that you can use as well. But the service delivery app is just a basic, or service delivery apps are the basic apps that you will need to deliver service to your clients. Then you have workflow management apps. You need to be able to track projects, tasks, due dates, um, manage documents, collaborate with clients. Ideally, that would live all in one place. But we need to be able to do that. I used to do that by stickies. So I had all these stickies stuck all over my computer, all over my desk, and I would write like, I need to do this, I need to do that. And that didn't work for very long because it's just not sustainable. And then focus on sales and marketing. CRM, client relationship management software, engagement letters, client invoicing. These are things that we must have in order to run our businesses properly. So again, focus on those essential apps: service delivery, workflow management, and sales and marketing. And by the way, I did not mention, but if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A and I will answer your questions at the end. Step number 2, your step to success: document management. As I said before, some of you may come from a background of dealing with and touching a lot of paper, but to work with clients virtually, we have to be able to work with virtual or digital documents, and then be able to have the client upload these documents to us and be able to collaborate with clients. And so the purpose of document management is, as I said, collaborate with your clients and with your team. If you have a team, make it so that documents are easy to find and easy to retrieve. So you need to have some sort of a filing system essentially that now lives in your document management app in order to be able to manage everything. Keep in mind also that if you're working with multiple clients, which you probably are, that you have to then keep track of these documents by client and to make sure that, again, everything's easy to find, easy to retrieve, because it doesn't do us any good to have the ability to request documents from clients if we don't have a logical way to organize files. So that brings me to file structure. We need to be able to structure our folders into main file or folder categories. For example, client files, internal company files. So let me back up. Client files is where all the client work will live. Internal company files is where your company's files live, like for your own bookkeeping, your own HR, or anything that's internal to your own business would live in internal company files. Then you may have a folder for procedures and training. So if there are any documented procedures that you have, and you should, you should aim for having documented procedures or standard operating procedures or SOPs. Those should live in this folder, and perhaps any training resources that you have, either from other people or from your own internal training that you have developed in your business. And then you would have sales and marketing folders. And this is where anything related um, to client engagement letters, proposals, marketing materials, brochures, everything would live in those folders. So as I said, when I got started, it was just mayhem, files everywhere. And so I made sure once I got myself organized to have these main file categories and to always make sure that everything was filed correctly. And if you have a team also, you need to make sure that the entire team follows your process and your way of keeping track of documents. Let's talk about the client files and the file structure for your client files. So when you're working with your client files, you're going to have two types of files. One will be the team file. So this is where you, and if you have a team or contractors, employees, you will all work in those client files. So you will have one file per client, and within those client files, you will have subfolders for bookkeeping, taxes, if you provide taxes, one-off projects, maybe cleanups, diagnostic reviews, etc. And then you're going to have another folder, which will be a shared folder with your client. And this is the folder that you will share with your client so that they can upload documents that you need, and then you can also download document or share documents with them that they may need, and perhaps your monthly financial statements that you provide to clients, key performance indicators, and anything else that you might share with them. So that would have your document requests and shared documents. Step 3 is client onboarding. And this is key. And I think this is really where we start to set the expectation with clients for this is how we do things. And so this is when We essentially take the control away from the client and them trying to do things their way, and then really having them follow an established way of doing things. Because once we set those boundaries, really, it's those boundaries that we need to start setting in the beginning. Once we start setting those clear boundaries, then we can continue to emphasize and to remind our clients of, no, this is how we do things. So as to, again, we don't let them control things, and they can value what we do. They can see us as a peer. And I see lots of hearts floating at the bottom that you agree. We need a lot of client boundaries. So in your onboarding, and what is the purpose of onboarding, first of all? So let's clarify, what is onboarding? Onboarding is when you have a client who has signed an engagement letter and paid you. So two things are a requirement to client onboarding. They have signed the engagement letter and they have paid you. Client onboarding, in my opinion, does not include the sales process, even though some people sometimes use client onboarding for that phase. But it's based on how I teach, client onboarding is sign engagement letter and payment in advance. That makes a client. And so in the client onboarding process, we are going to get everything that we need from the client. We're going to set expectations and we're going to set boundaries. Now, client onboarding ends when you get everything that you need from your client, and then you can start service delivery. So onboarding is key also because we're getting everything that we need and before we do any of the work. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of starts and stops. And let me make sure that I said everything I wanted to say about client onboarding. And so again, going back to some of the apps that we can use for client onboarding, we need to be able to have a way to receive documents from clients. So that may be your document management app. We need to have a way to collaborate with clients. Many of us start with email, requesting things via email. And while that works in the beginning, that is not sustainable once if you don't want clients to bother you through email all the time, or once you have a team. Emailing is not going to work very effectively when you're trying to onboard clients or just communicate with clients in general. And again, the key for onboarding is get everything that you need. Step number 4 is service delivery, just delivering the service that we were hired or we were contracted with our client to do. When it comes to service delivery, we want to set up repeatable processes. This is key, especially for monthly bookkeeping. We need to do things because again, monthly bookkeeping is a process that repeats every month. And so ideally, we want to set up repeatable processes so that once we set up a process, we keep repeating it every month. That will include projects in your workflow management software, tasks, determining who is the person responsible for doing the work, determining completion dates, when will we complete the work, tracking project status, and also having a process for quality control and ensuring that the work that you're providing your client is actually quality work. As I said, the monthly bookkeeping process is repeatable. It repeats every month. And I came up with a 5-step process. It's number 1, record. Number 2, reconcile. Number 3, review. Number 4, revise. And number 5, restrict. So the first step is to record all the transactions, make sure everything is categorized, and that you're able to then go to step 2, which is reconcile. And that's the step where you can then do all of your bank and credit card account reconciliations. Once everything is entered in the books and reconciled, the third step is review. So whether you are a solo bookkeeper or you have a team, you should go through a quality review process to ensure that you didn't miss anything, that everything was done according to how it should. And typically, or at least in my firm, we follow a review checklist and we go through an extensive review to check everything. Step number 4 is revise. So based on the third step of reviewing your work, step number 4 is revise, making changes. So let's say something was categorized incorrectly, we're going to categorize it correctly. And step number 5 is restrict. That just means closing the books. In QuickBooks Online, you just go in and go to the settings and change the date for closing the books. And all it does is really just password protects the month that you just worked on so that you, your team, or your client can't just go in there and make any changes. And we do that every month. Here's a sample workflow management dashboard that I got from Financial Sense from their website. And hopefully you can see that well, but you'll see the client column on the left. Then you'll see the work that is being done. So for example, we have Bill Gates, so we're doing a tax return. Then it'll tell you the status that it's in, and it tells you that it's in processing. It has a start date, it has a due date, and then it has the person assigned to the work. So this is ideal for being able to manage client work. And as I said, I was doing lots and lots of stickies and things and Excel spreadsheets and all sorts of things. And this is really the ideal of what we would want to see when we're managing our workflow. And I think actually Financial Sense does a great job of showing very clearly and visually where are we on each of these clients. And as I said, that you might be able to do this on an Excel spreadsheet if you have 5, 10 clients, but then as you grow, think of, okay, what if you have 50 clients? How is this going to work? What if you have a team of 3 contractors? How would this work? And so you pretty much have to move toward workflow management apps in order to help you manage this step. Quality control, as I said, it's so important that we put out quality work as accounting professionals, and each team member should be reviewing their own work. So whether you are the solo bookkeeper and you are providing work, you're doing all the work for your client, you should have a step for reviewing your own work. There should be a manager review also if you have a team. So in the case where you have a team, each team member should be reviewing their own work, and then a manager should be doing more of a cursory review. But there, at least in our firm, that's how we do it. We have team members reviewing their own work, and then we have a manager review. And I'm really passionate about this, about the quality of work that we put out. And so that's why my third bullet is develop a culture of quality. That's what we have done at Mavency. We have developed a culture of quality. And yes, it takes longer. And yes, it's a pain. And yes, sometimes the team members don't like to do it. But really, it's the only way, number one, that you put out quality work. And number two, if you have a team, that you have to be able to replace yourself at some point. You have to train managers. And the only way that you can train anyone to review work is number one, if they start reviewing their own work. And then you have this culture of quality, because that's the way that you will train the future managers and future reviewers, and then be able to free yourself up from your business. And by the way, I am a perfect example of that. I train my employees over the years. They now do the bulk of the reviews, and I really only do about 15% or spend about 15% of my time rather on client work. So I'll say that again. I spend about 15% of my time doing client work because the team does everything else. And I spent a lot of time systematizing, training, teaching them how to review, following processes, having a culture of quality. to get to that point in my life. And step number 5, team and client collaboration. Um, when setting things up, especially for new farm owners, we want to reduce or eliminate emails with clients. This may work in the beginning, as I said, but it's not going to be a sustainable process, and especially once you add a team. And the reason is that I get emails, another team member gets emails. If that team member goes on vacation, or and I need to see what they said to a client, what was discussed, I don't have access to their email. And so email really creates these information silos to where you don't have a visibility into what's going on or what's been said to a client or what a client has said to one of your team members. You need to make it easy for clients to collaborate with your team. And so again, email, text, and things, and going back to again setting boundaries, you're going to have a hard time if you are just only using email or only using text or WhatsApp or WhatsApp rather, or whatever you're using. And so you need to look at ways of collaborating with clients that is not email and not text, or at least not your email and not your phone. Okay. Um, and make it easy for your team to collaborate also. So how once you have a team, how are they going to collaborate? Or let's say that you're a solo bookkeeper, but now you want to hire an admin. You need to have a way to collaborate. So again, I stole some things from the Financial Sense website, and but they have really a great way to communicate with clients and chatting, giving the clients the ability to chat with you. And so again, they're not chatting on your phone; they're going through Financial Sense, or they're going through a workflow management app. Um, Being able to ask your client for the documents that you need. And again, not doing it through email, doing it through a workflow management app. And then for your team to be able to collaborate. And again, Financial Sense has that ability to do that. And so remember when we said there's so many apps and we're so overwhelmed, we need to look at what are the things that we absolutely need. And is there an app that is doing the bulk of what we need, and use that app instead of in the past, in the way that I came up in virtual bookkeeping was that, well, we have an app to talk to the client, we have an app to store documents, we have an app to manage tasks, and we have an app to do something else. And so while that worked, and it's very piecemeal, and so the if we can find an app such as Financial Sense that does the bulk of what we need, then it makes sense to use it. And by the way, they're not paying me to promote them or push them, but I think that they have a really good product. So again, here's an example of the client chatting with you as the bookkeeper, accountant, and again, not having to deal with emails or text. And again, going back to how do we set boundaries? This is the way to set boundaries with clients, because now they have a clear way to communicate with you. All right, we're doing great on time. So I'm going to take a look at the Q&A and answer your questions. And I have about 5 or so minutes. So we have a question from Jay. Are there tools available to help track remote employee activities and efficiencies? Jay, there probably are. I don't know what they what they are, but I'm pretty sure that actually I've talked to some people that use that, and that yes, I think you can track, like, are they on the computer? There's even some that are recording them as they're working. But honestly, I think that if you need to develop trust, I wouldn't want to. I'm just focused on, are my team members working on the deliverables, and I don't necessarily care about when and how they're doing it. Shannon says, and hello, Shannon, how do you narrow down your tech stack? So many tools do similar things, but not all things well. That's a great question. And we recently went through that here at Maven C. You need to make a list of What are your must-haves and what are the nice-to-haves and what are the deal breakers? Make this list before you look at any app, because when we look at an app, we get all excited that it does all these things, but we forget what are what are our needs, the must-haves, the nice-to-haves, and the deal breakers. And then check everything off and find the app that does the most of what you need. Question from Diane, proposals, engagement letters, or both? So should you send a proposal or an engagement letter? I do not send proposals. I think that just lengthens the time that you're in that sales cycle. I recommend a service. I tell them, and usually I'm pricing work ahead of time. So I usually start out with a paid diagnostic review so I know exactly how much to charge. And then I send an engagement letter based on having talked to the client and them having agreed that they want to move to the next step. Question from Jay, what are some tips, solutions, and strategies to get your clients to adapt and adopt new tech stacks? For example, Dext is utilized for document management, but there's so much follow-up. That's a great question, Jay. And I would say that in my experience, having been in business for 10 plus years, is that clients get excited about technology, but they don't always use it. And sometimes they're just not. And so Dext is one that they get very excited about and don't use, unfortunately, at least in my experience. And so if they're really wanting to use an app like that, I usually have them pay for it and then use it. A question from Charissa, do you do your extensive review every month or one time per quarter? We do a monthly review. And then so that includes self-review and manager review. And then we review once a year. Once we finish the entire year, we do sort of a tax-ready review as well. So it does include a time investment in doing that. Samantha asked, how important was for you to focus on a niche and how did it save time when doing the work? Fantastic question. In 2019, we decided to focus on e-commerce and then quickly saw that it's too big of a niche. We focused on Shopify and it changed everything that we do just because we narrowed down our tech stack. And we only work with clients who use QBO and A2X, which is an integrator app. We don't take any other clients and we have plenty of work. So it was a game changer for us. Well, thank you so much, guys. And let me see, how do we get away from email? So as I said, try out a workflow management app that has a client portal and client communication. And I believe we are almost out of time, so I'll keep answering as long as I'm on. Where do you learn about available tech? One is if you go to apps.com, apps.com, that will list all of the apps that you can use with QuickBooks Online. The other and best way, I think, is to go to a conference such as QuickBooks Connect or Scaling New Heights, because they have app vendors galore and you can learn all about available apps. And the Appy Hour is another that they have a Facebook page and do live webinars, and they focus on specific apps as well. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. And I'm just so excited that to have been here with you. And I wish you all of the best. And I think I have about 1 more minute to go. So if you want to throw a question in there real quick, but and let's see. Yep. The next session starts in 5 minutes. So yeah, have a couple more questions. If you have time, I will answer. But going back to the question about having a niche is again game changer, just also from the standpoint of really being seen and becoming experts in our niche and working a lot less harder to find those clients because now we are known as experts in Shopify bookkeeping, as opposed to before it was like, oh, we work with this kind of client or that kind of client. And then, well, now we have a client who they're a restaurant or a veterinarian or creative agency, and each one did things a different way, and we had to do different things for each client. We had to manage receivables for one type of client. We had to manage point of sale entries for another client. And so while it seemed exciting, it really, I think my employees were not happy because there was no consistency in what we did. And even though we were still fairly systematized, I really felt that everything came together once we had a niche. We knew exactly which types of clients we work with, the apps that we use, and everything and everyone feels like we're more cohesive. We have a better team. We have happier team members, and we're doing great. All right, thanks everyone for joining, and have a great session. And we'll go from there. I don't know if I'm supposed to stop talking or just keep right on going. I know it'll end here in about a minute. So. Let's see. Kelly says, does financial sense allow us to send engagement letters? That's a great question.